hasn't been on the FST stage in a while, but she is a seasoned veteran. Bowen is a genderqueer writer, poet, and teacher. Currently, they are really into sleeping, complaining in their head about Pokemon Go users, and playing rugby. So with that combination, this should be a fabulous story. Are you out there? I haven't met you yet, but hopefully you're coming to the stage.
There wasn't as many cheers about the Pokemon Go users as I thought. I suspected that. I'm not going to say anything else about it, but just know I'm saying a lot in my head.
Some of us were silently agreeing.
Oh, I see. Voices up, people. So, when I was 16, I was a 36-hour plane ride away from home in a small Paraguayan village without cars or telephones. It was winter, and a warm one at that, complete with rain and thunderstorms that sounded like they ripped open the sky. I slept through most of them. I generally sleep through rainstorms. I get my best sleep when it's raining. I had lived previously in Tucson for 4 years before I made it to Paraguay, so I was pretty used to the storms at this point. But in one afternoon in particular, a storm woke me up in a really intense way, in a way that to this day, when I hear a crack of thunder, I go exactly back to that moment. I was sleeping in a little communal dwelling that I was living with my host family at the time. And it's not as insulated as a building that you and I are living. Significantly less insulated, but a building nonetheless. And this crack of thunder woke me up from a dead sleep. I just sat straight up, my heart's pounding out of my chest. And all I could think that I was feeling was terrified and alone. And I was alone. My support system was like a 2-week letter away. And it was probably one of the first times I'd been that far away from everything that I had known. And the first time I realized I was a really small part of a really big world. I think it was the beginning of me growing up in the emotional and spiritual sense, which you'll hear about in this story. A year and a half earlier, I was sitting in my sophomore Spanish class. Some of my friends and acquaintances gave a presentation on this program called Amigos de las Americas. Some of you might be familiar. It's like a quintessential, I didn't know it then, but it is like the quintessential voluntourism program, where they send high school-aged youth from cities across the United States into poor third world countries to save them, right? To do youth projects of health and environment. So they're doing their presentation, and they have their little pamphlets and their poster boards, complete with like mostly white faces, like posed amongst like many darker skinned children. Maybe there's like the kind of well-to-do like high school, like hitting a nail. They were working really hard. Luckily for me, and I can say this now, I was not attracted to it because I wanted to be a white rescuer. I was attracted to it because I was like, at this moment, I have a lot of moments like this. And it was like two paths. It was like, this is your life, and this is your life. Which way are you going to go? In one direction, I'd be the kind of person who did things that scared me, and I would be brave and courageous, and I would go into a country where I didn't really know the language, and for me, it was the first brave thing. So I chose it, because I wanted to be someone who continued to make brave choices, like standing on stage in front of many people. So it served me well in that respect. I started training. We had weekly trainings, which were really like glorified social things. We all hung out. We're like, right? And like, speak Spanish. And then they'd send us on camping trips for like 48 hours, to make sure, we had been exposed to the elements. And my favorite part of the training, and I think what really sticks out to me, is that a lot of the veteran volunteers, vet vols for short, would share stories about their time in country. Some of them were what were called super vols, right? They were the ones who just kicked some ass, right? And I love the super vol stories. The super vols were the kind of people who were generally like the cupcakes of yesteryear, like they were the ones who didn't know how to hit the nail into the piece of wood. And so because of that, the countries they got placed in were like a 5-mile hike from the school they worked at, and they had to do that every day. Super vols were the kind of people that when they got into country got dengue fever, parasites, amoebas, an egg sac laid in their armpit from a tropical insect. They ate guinea pig, squirrel, Squirrel testicles. Not making that up. Some countries actually use the whole animal, guys. It's totally legit. They were also the kind of people that, got pique. Pique was this little beetle that would burrow itself into your feet, lay its eggs there, and then you had to get it out with a sterilized knife tip, right? I heard these stories and I was like, oh, I want to be a Super Bowl. I want to be a Super Bowl. I wanted to have survive some extreme badass living situation. Very exotic, your privilege check, right? If you're not getting that, I was like, it's so exotic, right? That's privilege, just so you know. I'm just going to spell it out for you. I wanted to live an extremely wild, badass, exotic survival living situation, an extreme wild, badass survival living situation that a Paraguayan or a person from the DR, the Dominican Republic, might have just called living, right? So when I got into it turns out that I didn't have a super time. I was really mediocre, actually. I did not learn my strengths as much as I learned my weaknesses. I'm going to set you up with just a description. We're going to a little description of my first day in country. So we're coming over from all different parts of the United States in the Asuncion, which is the capital of Paraguay, the airport, and they take us to a hostel. And at the time, I was like, whoa, we're in the jungle. And now that I think about it, I was like, we were probably in a grove of trees in the city. But everyone gets there and there's lots of girls with ponytails. I was one of them. And there's boys with ponytails because it's Ashland, Oregon up in there. And there's people playing ultimate frisbee. I was one of them. And there's people making hip bracelets, also one of them. And then there was this boy who had the guitar that I brought as a carry-on. Yeah. Playing Bright Eyes. Yeah. We're like, oh, this is the first day of our life. Where is our privilege? My first day in my community, the community was called San Agustin Goiburu. And it was in Paraguay. There's two parts of Paraguay. There's El Chaco and Paraguay. El Chaco is almost unlivable. Paraguay is lots of fertile farmland. So lots of people who farm there. So I got into my community and didn't speak Spanish that well. And anyone who's gone into country and where you get immersed for the first time, there's that moment where you're how do I conjugate a verb? Right? And on top of that, actually this is a really interesting and awesome thing about Paraguay. Paraguay is one of the only countries in South America where the first language spoken is not Spanish. It's Guarani, which is the indigenous language of the people who live in the Amazon basin, the Tupi Guarani. So, as a consequence, first day, they only talk to me in Spanish. They talk about me and around me in Guarani. So I'm lost. I don't know what's going on. But I'm still having adrenal panic, so it's I'm not having any moments yet. I'm right? Where's Bright Eyes? So it's El Dia de San Juan, which is a festival. There's lots of festivals that they celebrate, and so I got it that we're going to this festival. We're gonna walk there. I'm with a bunch of the women in my host family, and we start walking, and the sun has set, and we're about 3/4 of the way through the walk down this, this gorgeous red earth. The Paraguay is this gorgeous, rich iron red earth. We're walking down the path, and I get the signs of a telltale monthly visitor. I'm wearing a white skirt. I've gotten my period. Now, how do you say period in Spanish? At the time, I didn't even know how to say it in English, and I wasn't fucking gonna, because 16-year-old soon-to-be queer people don't talk about their bodies, okay? So, it wasn't until 3 years ago when a trans friend of mine gave me the words Shark Week and Man Pond that I was like, I can get on that. Yeah. My language. So I finally end up finding a way around it, and I say, it's mi ciclo de mujeres, my women's cycle, right? She understands me. I'm like, great. she hands me the tiniest panty liner you've ever seen. And then points in the direction of this like falling apart like wooden like latrine building. It's dark. There's like spiders. Like I'm like, I mean that whole moment I was like I want to die. I'm gonna fall over the earth and die. This isn't happening. It's happening. I'm alone. All right. So you know I go in there and just jam that shit up there because you know I have a heavy flow my first day. And then proceed to have a lot of awkward knock-knee dances at the dance because I'm trying to hold it in. The white skirt was fine. I burned it years later. What I also underestimated is how much downtime I would have. I thought I was going to be there, like, talking with community members and empowering people to take advantage of the resources they already have. No, I had so much downtime. I would wake up in the morning, I would drink mate. That was a beautiful ritual that I got to be part of with these people, the people that I was staying with. And the Paraguayan people, mate is very important. So I drink mate, and then I would journal a little bit. I go sit on these lawn chairs where like the pigs hung out, and yeah, they're kind of annoying after a while. That's what I found. Anyways, so I would journal, and then I would read one of the books I brought, which was the Bible, and do my devotional. Actually, what I did is I memorized all the Old Testament, so Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. I'm going to stop there. And then I would slog through the second book I brought, which when I think about it now, I was obviously having a growing thing because it was Memoirs of a Geisha. The Bible, Memoirs of a Geisha. I just realized that yesterday I was like, whoa, what's going on there? And then, after that I would just kind of proceed with the blankness of my morning. And in that blankness, I had a lot of time to be with myself that I hadn't had in my life. And I was no support system, not knowing the language. And I mean, this is the first time I'm staying in a large group of people. I thought that I had contracted, like I'd eaten bad food or had bad water or something had happened. To be honest, I could eat food off the ground near a food truck in Nogales and be okay. Like, that's not what happened. Like, now that I think about it, like, I had a severe panic attack and put myself in bed for a week. Like, I was so anxious. And I was like, the whole time, I swear to God, this is what I was thinking. I was like, I just want a Subway sandwich. Please. Subway sandwich. Turkey, Subway sandwich, pepperoni. I was off the carbs then. 2 days in the bed, I got out, and I went into the kitchen, and then there was just like a pig's head, and so I went back to bed. And that wasn't a Subway sandwich. I literally was like, no. I eventually got up though, and I participated. I kind of, when you're with yourself enough in a panic, you figure it out, right? I was also really homesick. I got so homesick for my mom. I never missed her. I was like, whatever, lady, like, don't tell me what to do. I'm leaving for the weekend. Gonna go eat Jack in the Box by the beach. See you in like 2 days. And I was like, Mom, I miss you. So I was super homesick. It shocked me. So yeah, not so super of a time, right? But when I really think about Paraguay, like, there's like a lot of gorgeous moments that I was gifted, that I got to experience, like things that I got to see with my eyes that were just amazing. Like I can think about standing in this graveyard that was like on this cliff's edge and then looking out into the Paraguayan jungle and the fogs just rolling over the trees. I can think about what it looks like to see a brick kiln in the middle of a field and have that blue, like bright white fire coming out of it, and then as the sun sets, the smoke is wafting off between the bricks. It's completely like nothing I've ever seen. I played soccer in the middle of sugarcane fields. I was a kid. I just played. I did. And I also remember the ghost stories. It was said that my host family told me one evening as we were walking at twilight that if you whistled, that the ghosts would all come. So if I learned one thing in country, it was to whistle to torture everyone. Seriously. The ghosts they would talk about different ghosts. There was un niño rubio, a little blonde-haired child, a black dog. There was bombero, a fireman, and there was el borracho, like a drunk guy. which my host mom was sure to let me know that you weren't always sure about the drunk guy. Sometimes it was just a drunk guy. Often. I turned 17 in country, and the people that I was living with made me my first tres leches cake I'd ever had. It was gorgeous. I never felt so taken care of on my birthday. I mean, I'm a Leo, so you would think I'd be all about my birthday, but I'm like, I'm all about it. But then it's given to me, I'm like, I don't want it to be. So like, these people are like, you're gonna have it. Well, you're welcome. Like, we love you. Welcome. They wouldn't let me not take them in, and it was gorgeous. And the last couple of months when I was there, I spent special time with someone. One of my host cousins in particular was pretty close to my age. They called him Chiquito because he was a kind of a short guy. Chiquito and I had a history. What we would do, we'd go running together in the mornings. But before we ran, we were friendly, and we had a bit of a history. One day we were walking, and he was like, "Te enamorado." He told me he was in love with me. And I said, "No." And that ended that. So then we just run together. But we would go running in the mornings before the sun came up, and just down these rolling hills, like past these churches built in like the colonial days, and these farmhouses and eucalyptus trees. You can't even imagine. It's such a distinct. The land is so distinct there, and he would see herbs that he knew that were really good add-ins. Like they would put herbs into the mate to add to its healing properties, and we'd find them and put them in, the waistband of his soccer shorts, and we'd run, and then afterwards we'd talk. And I talked about my life in Arizona, and he talked about his life there. And as I got closer to leaving, I started to panic because I knew that I probably wasn't going to see him again. And that kind of started to realize that because like in my American brain, I was like, but you could just like come visit me, right? Or like my parents, I'll ask them. Like, seriously, I was like, my parents have so much power. What I realized though is that he wasn't going to finish high school. He was going to work because that's what she did in the community that he was part of. And had he finished high school, the likelihood that he got into college, little to none. Had he gotten in, the likelihood he could pay for it, probably not. Even if he got through and was able to pay for it, jobs were extremely scarce. And there was nothing I could do about it. There was nothing my parents could do about it. There was something in that I didn't understand at the time for me about understanding economic and otherwise oppression on a global scale. It was like the first time I was like, but wait, what? No? You can't I can't do anything, right? Maybe Chiquito, maybe he didn't really care if he went to college or high school. Like, I totally own that I might have been putting my own belief systems and values on what I thought that he wanted based on what I wanted. But based on conversations that I had with Paraguayan people while I was in country, the truth is that jobs were scarce. Paraguay, in the last 200 years, has had some of the worst dictators, like a series of them, of all time. And land ownership is not, a lot of people who farm the lands in Paraguay don't actually own it. In fact, in 2012, 77% of the fertile farmland in Paraguay was owned in less than 1% of the population. So, on that afternoon, when I was woken up from that thunderclap, what it really felt like that is I woke up from the dream of my American childhood, that somewhere in between where I was dreaming and the world outside the room, I happened to grab onto a strand of something, a grid, that was over the earth, and that was older than me, and not something that I had created, but it was something that I was born into, much as we were all born into it. And it was something that I had unconsciously perpetuated through my unconscious whiteness, through my unconscious membership in the Western world. And, the repercussions of that, the beautiful repercussions, is that I've learned now in adulthood that I can learn and experience a group of people without taking it as my own, right? And I can learn and experience things that are beyond my need to know, right? Well, that's not really my problem, I don't need to know that because, that's not really I don't need that to thrive. But you need as much as anyone else. What I need is what the world needs, and you are part of the world, and that's what I realized. I was part of the world. When I got back in the country. I promptly started my junior year of high school off with a hippie skirt and like 2 dreadlocks and like, you know, like tons of with like little bracelets that, you know, you wear. My like hair grew out, right? I was still an asshole, evidently, right? But the awareness that started in that place has grown into me as I've matured like a taproot. And I like to think that the seed of my becoming a conscious person in the world and my pursuance of that seed was planted in the red Paraguayan earth, and I like to think that every time the rain comes again, it grows just a little more. Thank you.